And then it's going to take just a second. There we go. Oh, Kim Moore gave me a like. He's so good.
No.
Hi, everyone. So tonight I am talking with Paprika Clark. She is the other half of Dylan. I say half, but she's whole. Anyway, and we're going to be talking about some stuff that I think is really fun. Hey, Michael Banny. Hey, Furball. And Furball, Michael Banny, they're going to be really helping keep the chat clear and nice, right? Okay. So so I just want to talk a little bit about Paprika. She says she's a serial entrepreneur. And you know what? I'm kind of too. I love doing things that are new and exciting and that don't make sense. Like when I did the remodel, how me doing a remodel, how did that make sense? But I got to tell you, I loved it. I love the new stuff. So Paprika, just give me an idea of how many things you have your hands in right now.
Well, we are distancing ourselves from tiny house building and design consultation and that kind of thing. My bread and butter, as I drift in and out of the different serial entrepreneurial efforts, is to take on projects I can do from home so I can make my schedule around my kids. So I do proofreading, copy editing. I am kind of a writing coach. I'm also the person that a whole lot of people turn to when their technology is just a little beyond their grasp and they need some help, one-on-one phone calls or tutoring to get through learning how to use documents on the cloud or learning how to resize things for sharing or make PDF, like all these different coaching and helping out things. In the past, when I was starting out, it was as a landscape designer, and that was the context.
Really?
Yeah, I learned how to do drafting and all that kind of stuff. And then I took on this desire to be an environmental landscaper. I wanted to create wildlife gardens for people and drought tolerant gardens, and I wasn't really getting that kind of clientele I wanted. So from that, I went into marketing, and from that, I went into tiny house design.
Oh my gosh.
Mhm. It's been a
And
wild ride.
and so now you're also into psychology now.
I'm taking on a psychology degree. So I'm in the first 2 years of that, just finishing up those first 2 years. And I my intention is to become a therapist, a licensed family and marriage therapist. So that means I'll be on the journey for quite a while, getting a master's in psychology. But yeah, I'm pecking away at that. I'm only taking one class this semester, and that class is in digital media post production so that I can
Oh,
help Dylan edit his amazing footage into beautiful videos that really tell a story, that grab people's emotions, that get you involved. Just always learning something new.
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. And then you have children on top of this.
I have the two kids. So we have a 19-year-old who has moved out of the house. So, that's relieving a certain amount of pressure and activity in my day-to-day life, but it's also not without its own sadness. That's a big life change to have that first one leave the nest. And then we have a 12-year-old who's just starting into junior high and all those adventures. So yeah, he keeps us busy too. I have a dog who adores me. We have chickens in the backyard. We have a front yard filled with raspberries and goji berries, and yeah, we keep busy.
Oh my gosh. I'm almost getting tired. That is way a lot of stuff. Hey Sparky, hi Ryan. We have Paprika Clark with us, or we're gonna call her Pepper tonight if she doesn't mind.
I
Um,
don't
yeah, thank you. So okay, so now you hit on all those buttons of things that I love.
know.
Um, and I want to say I'm your sister in school because I graduated sociology,
Oh,
and my master's degree was in organizational uh, social conflict within organizational structures.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I
So
think that
then,
the biggest thing I've learned in the past 2 years is that our most of our problems in the wider cultural systematic stuff that we have issues with could be solved if we put the work of sociology and psychology to practice out there in a meaningful way in people's lives and how we manage governance. It's a real
yes.
pity that we don't do that.
Well, yeah, because we don't. We don't. You know, I worked in my field for quite a while, and it was yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
We'll just say we don't.
Yeah, we know better. We know things about how humans work and what we need as people to be able to thrive and to function in a peaceful and adapted way in
So
society, and we just don't do them.
so talking about that leads me into tiny homes.
Okay.
And hey Brandon, great video. Okay, here I am. Because I think it is an answer to a lot of things that have been happening in our world, like homeless populations,
Mhm.
like people who just, I know I said something to Dylan about how expensive some of them were, and we need to get to a place where we can give that to people. Oh, Paprika, let me give you a blue wrench, honey. You don't have one. So, guys, this is Paprika. Let's see.
Hi, I'm
Let's
finally
see.
here in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, yeah. So, because I saw this thing in Kansas City where they started with like 23 homes and they put them all up
Mhm.
for homeless veterans, and they get to go there first and then start working through PTSD, all those things that occurred,
Mhm.
and now they're homeless. And I thought that was one of the most fascinating things. And then they doubled it. And then it's like 49 homes, and they're all within this couple, maybe 4 acres or something in
Mhm.
Kansas City. And they're not big, but they have a bed, a couch, a kitchen, you
Mhm.
know, a bed close to the ground because they roll out of bed.
Yeah.
If they get, triggered, they always learned how to roll out and not, you don't want to have a high bed or a loft because that would just be impossible to wrangle. So,
Mhm.
do you see a lot of these happening within the states now, or is it very still just
It's very
not
spotty. There's more of it happening all the time, but not as frequently, of course, as we need, as we wish. And very different ways of applying these same general principles are being tried in different places, some with more success than others. And it's hard to gather any real good data. A lot of the political decisions are being made by people who want to see huge numbers, but I think that it's such a diffused problem. And by it, I mean not just the homeless or specifically homeless veterans, which are both very troubled groups, but also people who are paying 70 or 80% of their income in rent, maybe being taken
right?
advantage of in tight rental markets, and not, people who are working folks working full time at jobs we think of as good jobs, but who still somehow end up sleeping in their cars. It's really a broad crunch, and it requires a lot of different solutions. And that's part of what I have come through the tiny house experience with is, yes, let's talk about tiny houses on wheels, but let's also talk about container homes and supportive housing and housing first models and what they mean philosophically and why they are such a critical economical benefit to the community. Because when we put housing first, like we did with those veterans who need that follow-up care, need PTSD treatment and so on, and who need to have a residential setting where their oddities of behavior and presentation aren't going to be held against them in terms of their, people expecting them to behave within certain boundaries in those ways. But a lot of communities need this kind of grace. And unless we empower, I think, little groups on the ground to work in these unconventional ways that are tailored to the specific communities that they're dealing with, we're not ever going to be able to rise to the occasion in that way. It's a diffuse problem. It needs to be met with diffuse and variety of solutions.
Yeah, I think that sounds right, because we've made promises
Mm-hmm.
that we're not. And that's why one clearer thing, and the things I'm not hearing talked about right now through all this haze, we don't talk politics, we don't talk religion on this channel or anything, but through this, just this haze, smoke and mirrors, is what we promised vets. We made some promises,
yeah.
and we're not keeping them.
No.
And we also made promises that if you work hard, you do all this stuff, you're going to have certain things.
Yeah.
You'll be able to afford certain things. And we're finding, hey, drone bump. Now we're finding that our people with mental health issues are a good degree of our homeless.
Yeah.
PTSD vets that are just now have mental health, maybe didn't going in. That's what we're finding in our homeless.
Yeah.
And so now I got to say, you know, we need solutions.
And I think that is a really powerful case to be made specifically for the vets. I think you're absolutely right. We made promises to those people, and we need to use every possible avenue to come through on those promises. And we have a really important thing. And I actually am really heartened by the fact that veterans have had these places created for them in more than one community. There's one happening in Santa Rosa, which is the largest town of size near us where we live. And yeah. Question?
Okay. So yeah, just for us for a minute. It'll unfreeze in just a second, because I could still hear you. I think it's, there you go. So yeah, they have one in Santa Rosa. They have some stuff going on in Colorado. They have some stuff going on in Florida. So, but if you're not on a foundation,
yeah,
right, it's going to be different. Now, I like the tiny homes or small homes, maybe they're called, that are on concrete. They're on a foundation. But I think that's what they're doing for vets. They're giving them what I would call some, hey Rojo, some stability, right? Did we crash again or no? Are we good? Can you hear me, Paprika? Uh-oh. Okay. Yeah, we might be crashing a little bit, guys, because here we go. I'm redoing it. Let me go up. Okay. I'm hoping she knows she can come back in under the same login. Well, there I am. Here, she's back. Zoom dropped me. I'll be right back. Very good. I'm going to just let her know that she can use the same link. Here we go. Okay. How are we doing? So you don't have to use, if you don't want, two computers if you think that's what's happening. I will make sure you know everything that's happening in that chat. Can you hear me?
Yes, no.
Okay, Brandon. Okay, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Okay. So
I am.
I'm finally back.
Okay. And I got to tell you, it depends on how our internets are and how all that is. So it's okay. Good. Good.
Okay.
So we were talking about
also...
the tiny homes with the concrete are smaller homes. And
Hmm.
so, and you were saying about how rent prices are really forcing people to start looking at different things.
Yes, that's been my experience. A lot of Americans are renters, and we value home ownership. It's one of those things I think we see as a metric of success. And I think it's something that's shared by a lot of us. But, many people just stay on the rental market for most of their adult lives. And when the pressure is very high, like it is, yeah, it encourages people to consider all sorts of alternatives. And if your alternatives are like accepting substandard living conditions or paying 80% of your income or basically going hungry or all of the above, then a tiny house starts to look really great, whether it's on wheels or not. Now the wheels, as you point out, are mainly there so that we can get around legal restrictions, so that we can have
Oh,
tiny houses
mhm.
in places where they're not technically allowed. And if we get bothered by someone who says we can't live in them where we are, we can move them to another place. That comes
Right.
with a whole lot of insecurity, though, and a lot of people don't want to have those kind of conditions. They want to have the stability of knowing that they have the right to be in a place.
Right. Hi, Tim. That's the one thing. If they act as if you don't have, if you know that you don't have stability, or someone can knock on your house and go, you cannot be here. This is not coded. You can't get insurance. I mean, that would leave a lot of people feeling kind of shaky about where they were.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not for everyone. The tiny houses are for a specific type of person, perhaps for a specific phase of life that you're in, or for people who have other priorities than housing that are just way
Right.
stronger. I've known people who chose to live in tiny houses because they're a photographer who just wanted to travel constantly and essentially realized with everything that they paid for rent and all that furniture and everything else that they all they used was the bed. They just went home, slept, and then left to go do more photography or whatever it was they were doing from the day to day. And it seemed silly to have more than they really needed. So there's all kinds of reasons.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of stuff like Tiny Home Nation and all that kind of stuff with people just wanting to pare down. But I will tell you, like in my market right now, here in the rental and buying market, people can't afford to buy the homes because they have just doubled, tripled in price.
Mm-hmm.
People can't afford to rent, not in Boise, Idaho, that much because it has gone up higher than the mortgages of people who've had mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's kind of pushing a lot of people out into the fringe where people used to want to live in town, live close. Now it's starting to push people out.
And that's a great point.
And I'm just sitting there thinking, what are all these little families going to do? And all of the people who just they need to be here
Mhm.
because they need to get to work and have it cost effective.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about that.
No, we don't talk about that enough. And we realize that we have this hopefully most of us can agree that there's some climate issues we're needing to address, and using a lot of fossil fuel for long commutes and living way outside in isolated low density areas, while you might be able to get away with living in a tiny house out there in the middle of nowhere, for example, you don't have the ability for your kids to walk to school. You can't walk to your grocery store. There's no place to go get a book from the library. So what do? You order from Amazon and you order your groceries. And next thing you know, you might never have to leave your home, but where are all those connections between you and your community that can help get you through when life has problems? I worry that people get isolated, even in urban places where we're right on top of each other. If we don't have good spaces out in the world for social activities, we don't form those bonds and people can be isolated. And when something happens, they get overlooked and they die. It's dark thoughts,
Right.
but we need to bring people closer in. We need to help people have healthy communities and connections with each other. And yeah, pushing us out to the fringe because we choose to live in an alternative dwelling, whether it's like a cob house or an earth ship or a tiny house, is not serving the community.
Right. Right now, Michael Benny's saying, please don't make me live near people. Yeah. Well,
Hey,
droners
that's
are
fine too.
isolationists a little bit. They like
Yeah.
they like their space, and I'm not saying I don't either. But I tell you what, I want to live where I can go and walk to a corner cafe and sit down and have a cup of coffee and watch
Hmm.
what's, even if I don't interact with people, watch what's going on around me. I
Yeah.
like those opportunities, which I don't know, between work and this and everything else, don't have a lot of opportunities, but I want things close to me. Like you said, I
Hmm.
want to fill my gas tank and have it last a month. I'm
Hmm.
just one of those people who just want to make sure that I don't have to use a lot. I'm going to say, and I am an empty nester because my kids are grown, but I got to say, these little families out here who have to drive everywhere and get everywhere, they need alternatives. Now, I don't know if I'd want 4 kids in a tiny home.
Hmm.
Um,
Most wouldn't.
I'm just imagining what that might look like. Some families can do it. I'm not sure I would have the wherewithal to be like that, but I do know when I couldn't afford electricity in our gas heat, they I had to have the furnace turned off one winter. Um, we all slept on this pull-out sleeper couch, and it was my kids and me, and we had the fireplace going every day, and that's what we had to do to get through that winter. And I think there are other people who have to do that. It would have really been nice. So we were super close.
Hmm.
Everything else was closed off to try to maintain that heat. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I thought it was great to do that. And of course, there were a lot of things going on. I was trying to get through college all at the same time. It just, life happens and then you
Yeah.
just push through. But I would have thought if I could have had something smaller, a little more doable for me
Hmm.
at that time, I think it would have been okay at that time.
Yeah, we rented for a while. We rented a about 800 square foot cottage with 2 bedrooms. When the
Hmm.
2 kids were younger, the two of them shared one bedroom, and we lived in the other together. Obviously, we had a single car garage, and we set up an office out there. It got a little damp. I think we ruined one of our computers out there, but we made it
Oh, yeah.
through. We worked out, and I appreciated living in a place where I could stand in the center of the cottage and look around in every direction and kind of see the whole family from a certain perspective. We all kept
Yes.
tabs on each other. We could hear each other, and we felt each other's feelings, and that meant we had to work on our communication. So it has its pros and cons, but I never would suggest that it's for everybody. And cities aren't for everybody either. For most of my life, I thought I wanted to live far away. I wanted
Yeah.
to have my very own farm, multi-acred homestead, the whole thing. But now I'm really excited by the idea of bringing a homesteading vibe right here to these suburban areas. We have a quarter acre and we have berries and chickens, it's we're making a lot of our own little odds and ends. We grow our own herbs,
Different shots.
even
Yeah.
in this more congested space. So
Well, see,
yeah.
and I know my neighbors behind me. I live, this is a suburban area. I live in, and my neighbors behind me have chickens.
Hmm.
I think that's so flipping cool. I wish, I am not really good at multitasking when it comes to the farm animal,
Hmm.
but I would think chickens wouldn't be as difficult as if you had a bunch of cows or something. I don't think they
It's
let
so
me
much
have
easier.
cows.
Yeah, I would say chickens are definitely a starter farm animal.
Yeah.
You raise them from chicks, they get used to people, they can become quite friendly, they have personalities. They're not too challenging to take care of as long as you keep them in conditions they are not stressed in, then they're very carefree. And what could be better? They just lay lay their eggs naturally in the course of their lives, and we feed them quality food, and it's a beautiful circle.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, my two dogs, I have Saint Bernard and kind of a husky woofy thing,
Mm.
and I thought they would try to get to the chickens, but they go to the fence and they talk to the neighbor dog who's around the chickens, and they they just talking away. Of course, especially my husky woof, and then
Oh,
they just watch the chickens and they just leave them alone.
my dog is, she looks at the chickens. She's kind of
Hey, Turner,
interested. She would lick them if she could, but she doesn't chase them.
yeah,
If
love
we
it.
hold one and we're petting it, she'll come up and try to sniff and lick at the chicken. We're just like, no. And then,
She's just tenderizing. It's
yeah,
like I just want to make sure you're
oh,
toasty and
clean
juicy.
that chicken. But no, she's been good. So I was surprised by that too.
So now that you are moving into this different space of life,
Hmm.
with, is tiny home just something that you're leaving behind?
Well, I don't think of it as leaving behind. We are selling our present tiny house that we're living in. We're going to put it on the market here in the next few weeks. But I think what I've learned about life and people and housing, because of the stuff I learned through tiny house instruction when I did all those workshops, I'll carry that with me for the rest of my days, and I'll always be an advocate for housing freedom. That's the way I see it. I think that the big housing industry has had its way with us. It's had the attention of the government organizations, it's had the support and subsidies, and they have tried to entice big builders to build a little bit of inclusive affordable housing as part of an inclusive housing policy. They've said, one
Right,
percentage or whatever has to be, you've probably seen those kind of policies. 10% of the housing units have to be affordable, and it
right.
has to remain affordable for maybe 20 years. And in exchange for that, we will be able to upgrade the zoning density. So we'll be able to build more units on that same lot than we would otherwise have been allowed. But after the 20 years or the 30 years or whatever it is, they can raise the rates to market rate, whatever those rates might be. And then they have 3 times the units or 4 times the units to make money off of from that point forward, for as long as it can be a viable unit. And that's not effective. It's fine. It works for a certain amount of housing in a certain sort of location. It allows those big developers to provide affordable housing that looks very mainstream, that looks like regular.
Ooh, I think you froze. Yes, so we froze again. So hold on, guys. I don't know if you'll be able to
But
see this.
also the
Oh,
government.
there you go.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Am I too much?
No, you froze.
Oh, I think the government also needs to. Oh, am I freezing more? Should I pause?
No, no, you're fine now.
Okay, I think the government also needs to enable people on the smaller end of the scale who are just families or neighborhood co-ops or groups of people serving vets or groups of people serving old folks or whatever the situation is. If you can get together the capital and the vision, you should be able to do away with one or more of the different institutional barriers that are preventing you from making that housing happen. Just the same way the big developers get, but just on a micro scale. If you can write a proposal up that shows promise to provide housing, even if it's only a small amount of housing, even if it's only for a specific community that we don't otherwise have, they should be able to increase the zoning density, or they should be able to do a mixed use thing. Maybe they do living units in the back and they have some business units in the front so that people can, I don't know, do work trade or can try to develop some skills and start a business while they're living in supportive housing. All sorts of different combinations, whether even if it's agricultural setups that are in conjunction with housing. So you have agricultural worker housing, and there's also some farm sales on the property. Those are the kind of things that people love to dream up, but when you look into zoning, too often they're not allowed.
You can't do it.
You can't do it for various reasons.
Well, even like the tiny homes, they're finding ways to block those from being built
Oh yeah.
in different areas, so that people have to actually jump through a lot of hoops. And the thing is, I don't know what the stop is in that. I mean, why is that? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of reasons, but I just think that if somebody wants to live in something that's 400 square feet, and that might be considered big in some areas, but they want to live in that and they think that can work for them, I think that's okay. I mean, I've gone up into the mountains here and seen people live in basically plywood houses, if you could call it plywood. Hey, ex-country venture, and they don't have heat, and we're talking 10 feet of snow. So why not let them build something that's livable instead of what they're in, right?
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, I have the devil's advocate answer to that. I
Okay,
think that we should be able to do that. I think that we should be able to solve our problems for ourselves and for our families by easing these different restrictions, by making the housing smaller, or by making it in an unconventional way that allows us in some way to give that housing, to create the housing at a lower cost. I think that's all really important. But we have to realize that we also have a slumlord history in, you look back at The Jungle by Upton Sinclair, and it's not
right,
just about the meat packing industry, it's also about the apartment packing industry, right? It's about letting people be shoved into these hellholes with no fire escapes, who then suffer at the hands of these
right.
profiteers. And so we have to be very careful, I think, to recognize that part of the restrictions come from the housing industry becoming very conservative about safety issues, is as a backlash to how bad housing was back in those times, in
Well,
the
and I
almost centuries ago.
truly believe, hey Wagner, that people need to have true housing.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know your roof isn't going to cave in. You
Mm-hmm.
need to know that the walls of your house are going to stay there,
Yeah,
and that is clean, and you can use the bathroom, and you can shower, and you
yeah.
can cook,
That
and
it's going to
all those
survive normal
things.
use. Yeah.
Right, normal use.
Mm-hmm.
And people should be able to make that happen.
Yeah.
Now, if I think, like I said, I have seen some housing up in the mountains that is so horrendously bad for children and people in and of themselves, and
Yes.
even sometimes down within our areas. But people have to do it. They don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
So it makes me
Absolutely.
worry, especially if there's mental health, or it's, some of our vets, and things. I just think there has to be a better way. But
Yeah.
slumlording, yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. And so we have to be mindful of that and figure out ways to write. If we're going to attack this problem head on, we're going to write some kind of legislation that says, under certain conditions, with a viable project plan that provides safe housing that meets standards for, electrical and plumbing and exit safety and all that, uh, then the government, local governments and authorities have no authority to stop the plan from going forward. I want like a nationally protected housing freedom status that you can get. If you meet all these
Right.
points of viability and of meeting needs in the community that are shown to be unmet, you just get to move forward. You can't be stopped by NIMBYism, and you can't be stopped by tax authorities or by whatever other nonsense.
Are people afraid of what people will move into your tiny home?
Yes. Yeah. The
Right?
NIMBYs, the people
Because
who
that
say,
is the thing,
oh yes, oh yes, we should house those veterans. They're so important, but not in my backyard.
right?
Not
Right?
here.
But not here,
I
because
say
they may
yes
have
here.
mental health problems that they need to get through, and so you can put on their place, but let's do that somewhere else. And I just think that I think that they are within your neighborhoods, they just don't have housing.
Yeah. And
If
how
I
much
go down
safer
to
would
the
it be?
river, I'm going to find vets, and I'm going to find people with mental health issues down by the river. They're
Yeah.
there. I think it's so much better to give them housing.
Yeah. And the housing first model is so important. And yeah, it's not an isolated. problem that can be pushed out of sight. It's going to make itself prevalent and known with the little time, with the wrong circumstances. And
I gotta say, and I didn't mean to have to push you into this topic to last, but
Dylan
I
told me you
find it
didn't talk about politics.
fascinating how many times we put things in front of us so we can't go forward,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
And it all sounds
You
very
said it.
innocent when it's discussed. It's usually in the form of concern trolling. It's usually in the form of, well, but if we can't make sure that the housing meets these specific criteria, then it's not good enough for the audience, for the, you know, the clientele, the recipients, the dwelling users. So we have to hold these things to a higher standard. But it's a little bit like, I don't know, it's a little bit like denying someone a medical evaluation because they're fat and saying, well, whatever your problems are, it's probably just because you're fat. We don't even have to evaluate whether there's, no, let's get past that. There's a symptom here. Let's address it directly. Let's not pretend.
Yeah, because we all know some vets come out and they go get houses and they have families and they hide whatever scurry happens, or some of them aren't scars. You know, it's all different people. But then, and so they can do that. They can go out, they can get their house, they can move on. But
Yeah.
some of our guys can't do it.
Yeah.
Or they wouldn't be on the street. And we have people who help trying to build tiny homes that get wrecked or they take them away. But I don't think we should put anyone in something that's going to fall down around their ears either.
No, we have to maintain standards. We have to maintain, you know, standards for safe dwellings. That's certain. But the kind of regulations that I think need to be eased are more like the density things, the zoning things, the optional extras that we put as requirements on housing developments that are relevant to big time developers who are trying to make a profit, but they are not relevant to small operations that are just trying to meet immediate needs of the community in a you know, safe, thoughtful, specific way.
Right. Hey, Manamana, I think also when you have kids that you're expecting to move out at 18, right? Let's say they don't want to do
True
college,
that.
there's
I
no
feel you, Michael.
dorms.
Yes.
They have to have a place to go.
Yeah. Yeah. My 19-year-old moved to Reno, Nevada
Did he?
in October, and I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy, Val. It's too far away.
Been there, been there. My child decided to go spend a year in France.
Ah,
I'm like, how am I ever going to see
too
you if you're
far.
there? It was my youngest, and I just
Oh,
he did it in his third year of college.
wow.
And of course he was working on like a triple major, whatever that. And he says, "Well, Mom, I have to do it to have this," and I'm like, "No,
You don't have
you
to.
could be here with your mama." And he's
Mhm.
just like, "Yeah, no." Oh, globally, housing needs to stop being a financial powerhouse and start becoming a social responsibility.
I agree.
You know
I
what?
agree. Housing is
I
a right.
agree. And I'm just saying, because we're talking about this topic tonight, and I knew we would be, the stuff, I think we're fine just saying what we need to say about it because it's true. It needs to be a social responsibility. I
Absolutely.
think so. I think everyone, yeah, if you don't think, honestly, if you think people can dream, but they can't eat and they don't have housing and they can't get the clothes because they're so busy trying to afford something that's so far out of their range, like what's happening in our cities and our suburbs, then how are they ever going to have that dream? Very hard to have that dream, especially throw a little mental health on there, throw a little, let's take you over and have you fight in a war. It just gets impossible.
Yeah.
Oh, furball. He says, Roger moved downstairs and I cried for days. He did. I'm just going to say
Yeah.
he did.
Oh, Michael Beatty, I have to say, I cried so much on the drive back from Reno that my face hurt the next day.
Yes.
I thought my eyes were never going to recover.
You know, I got to tell you, I tell people that, and a lot of them say, my kids left. I said, thank God. And I'm
Well,
just like, no,
I love my
no.
not fair to put it on that. We all love our kids in our own different ways. But I guess part of my mission with raising my kids was to raise kids that I wouldn't hate living with. Like if they
Right,
stuck around, I'd be fine with it.
right, right.
I guess I did pretty good because I miss my kid.
And I always look at it as I am a mom. And then when you're not really that mom, what mom are you? I mean, I'm so glad I have a grandson because I just mothered the heck out of him.
Oh,
But it's really difficult because then
mm,
now what am I? Now where am I? And so yeah, and yeah, I do not. I'm blessed. All my kids right now are in Boise, and I am very happy about that. But they travel, they do stuff. I mean, yeah, but thank goodness, because that was hard. That was hard. The
yeah,
youngest one goes so far away, and then my daughter went to Spain for a while. It was hard. I
yeah,
was, you know, oh my God. So talk to me a little bit about landscaping because
yeah.
your work seems to be all about um, things that make sense. I don't know, kind of organic things.
I was thinking about that, where they all grew from and how I came to be in this cluster of ideas, because they do have a connection, and it comes from being environmentalist first. I was born in 76, and environmental things just seemed to really make themselves so obvious to me. When I was a kid, I was reading National Geographic, and I was wondering why people were running around with their hair on fire going, oh shit, we got to do something about the environment. And I looked at my own family and I realized, well, crap, it's because most of us are too poor and working too hard and too damn busy to think straight or to hear these alarm bells going off. And why is that? So the quest has always been the same. Like, why was my mom so um, incapable of accumulating the trappings of a healthy life, the mainstream middle America life? My grandpa was a successful upper middle class, country club Republican, but my mom was kind of like not quite a redneck, not quite a hippie, but a little bit of both. She was a musician, she was beautiful, she was nice, she
Uh,
was intelligent, she connected with people,
I said,
but
try.
she didn't succeed by any of the American standards. So I was stuck asking that question right away. Like, if it's not being pretty, and if it's not being smart, and if it's not working hard, what is it that makes it possible to succeed in America? And basically, it's like, well, luck and being born rich, or some combination of access to certain strands of privilege that we just didn't have when I was growing up. So
Well, and I just want to say something to everyone in the audience. We don't really talk politics here
we
because it
don't
can
do that.
divide us, but I don't see this as politics. I got to say, I just want to be straight here. Neither side of our aisles has been working on this. And
Yeah,
so I take exception for both things that are happening,
yeah.
that they aren't handling this and they haven't been handling this. And
I'm
as
not
a
a finger pointer.
60-year-old woman, I've seen lots of politics
Yeah,
and nobody's
yeah,
dealing with it. We are getting our nonprofits to start trying to deal with it. We're getting our other associations trying to start dealing with some of this stuff. So that's what I'm going to say to that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
'Cause I was born back late 50s. And yeah, I've seen a lot of stuff. So I just want to say the housing problems, the other problems, it's just about it's you're right. It's just about thriving
Mhm.
in America.
Yeah.
I will say my dad's family was poor,
Mhm.
and his mother, his dad, there were reasons for it. And my dad went to college, and he finished college. He went into the Air Force, and he did all those things, and
Mhm.
was able to get that American dream, what they were promising. But I
Mhm.
will tell you, as a little kid, I was always going, so we got to bring all these people to our house because they don't have one.
Mhm.
Because even then,
You knew someone was being left out.
people were being
Yeah.
left out of the dream.
Yeah.
And certainly I have not been thriving in the American dream. But that's okay. I'm happy with where I'm at. But
Yeah,
I think that everyone should be able to, roof over their heads, food to eat, stuff like that. They
yeah,
shouldn't be excluded from that, especially because of mental health,
yeah,
especially from giving service to our country,
yeah.
especially when they have children. I mean, there are things that we have to figure out.
Yeah,
And
I'm not a partisan, and I would not speak the name of any candidate or any party in this conversation, but I'm just for humans. I want us all to be able to have a chance. That's it.
yeah, that's it. That's it. That's all it has to be about, right?
Hmm.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
That's exactly
That's
right.
right.
There's no
That's right,
guarantee of a
Crenshaw.
result, but the
I don't care
genuine
where
pursuit
you are
makes
on
it
the
possible.
spectrum. I think everyone should have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're not guaranteed happiness, certainly. We can all be miserable and still have life and liberty. People can still be miserable.
Right. I mean,
You
sometimes
don't have to
our
be
ideas
happy.
of the pursuit of happiness are pretty off base, right? Like
Yeah, that's why they say
pretty poor
pursuit
choices
and
sometimes.
not you get to be happy.
Yes. No
Because
promises, just good
I
intentions.
heard, yeah, I just, yeah, Manamana, but I think there are, Manamana, now he's an interesting case. He knows how to do all kinds of stuff within houses. I
Phenomenal.
think he could easily, with the help of maybe a plumber and some electrician,
Hmm.
because he can do sheetrock, he can do all kinds of stuff, be able to forge his destiny, but he
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah. And one of the guys who made tiny houses popular was this dude named Shafer, who built that first beautiful little tumbleweed with its A-frame roof and its beautiful wood siding and the Gothic window at the top. And it made people fall in love with that visual aesthetic. But what most people don't know when they look at that house until they look a lot closer is that he didn't even have running water in there, and he didn't have electricity in the walls. He just ran an extension cord under his front door to
That's
the
right.
inside with a power strip, and he had a gravity bucket, gravity fed bucket to a sink, and that was his system. He used an outhouse, I think, and or used the he had it parked by an apple orchard, and he used the main house's bathroom when needed, or I don't know, but
See, and I'm the kind of person that needs some happiness.
I need some
So a
amenities.
bathroom would be a
Yes,
must.
I gotta wash my hair once in a while.
I can give up a lot of stuff, but water is not one of them.
um, I
Yeah,
don't
I
think
have to have that in the house, and I say that now. But if it came down to it, I do now, I'd be like, so that's one of my must-haves. I can do without a furnace because
yeah.
I've done it, but I have to
And
have my water.
there's certain things though, like we have a future, we know we're going to be facing less and less availability of fresh drinking water, and yet we are still using fresh potable drinking water in our toilets, and that seems like madness. Now I know that there are many people who will never consider a composting toilet, but do we need to make it illegal for those few people who are willing to use a composting toilet to use one? No, we do not. We should let them use it within proper guidelines, as a model that's created by a company that will actually do the job, not some ad hoc bucket but in Sonoma County, you can install a composting toilet and that's just fine, but you also have to have a regular conventional toilet. So any savings of water and labor and materials that would be utilized or by having a composting toilet are negated because you have to do both. It's
So,
crazy.
so I remember down in San Diego. I lived there for 2 years. I have some of my dad's family down in San Diego, but anyway, I was down there. My sister lived next to me in a little cottage, and I moved up here because I'm originally from back east. So I moved up here because it's smaller. And really it did make it so I could buy a house and have those things at that time. But
Mm-hmm.
I just remember them calling me saying there's a drought. So they asked us to cut back. And so my sister and her husband, being the dutiful people they are, taking responsibility, cut back so far that they couldn't cut back anymore. They just went right 100% to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came back and said, now everyone, you got to cut 50 more percent or
They did
something
something
like that.
similar in Santa Rosa.
And
We
they
we
couldn't
had
cut
already
back
done
anymore.
everything we possibly could, and then they were like, "Oh, 20% more." Well,
But
wait,
some people weren't cutting back at
at
all.
all, right? Right. Yeah,
They'll
I know
cut
you have
50%
records that
more.
show how much every single household consumed. Why don't you check your records and just notice that we already reduced more than average?
I'm just like, oh my God.
No.
Yeah. And so they did that because we are certain areas in the country go into drought status and they don't have the water. And it's funny because certain states go, yeah, I'm not giving you mine. Yeah, what? We're all in this together, guys. Everyone needs water.
Hmm. Hmm. And
Not ours, not ours. We're not doing it.
yeah, I
And so I just find that kind of funny. But so talk to me about your landscape because, like I said, that's all part of that organic harmony
yeah,
that
yeah.
happens.
I learned a lot when I studied landscaping, and I learned that people, as a rule, most generally, kind of see a landscape like they see decorating a house. They kind of look at plants as furniture and they want a certain visual effect, and they would like it if they could arrange things with you so that the color and the visual effect would be glorious, beautiful, and blooming year round as much as possible. That's the California expectation. Even here in Northern California, where we do have some seasons, people really want to keep it colorful, and so that was really interesting. I was trying to coach people to adapt to landscapes that change a bit with the seasons, like let your grasses stay after they finish with their tufty blooms in the summer so that they remain through the autumn and give you some structure and some color in the garden, and so birds can come and eat the grasses of the and yeah, I learned about the fact that people just use way too much water trying to plant things that are some from some place far away that is not suited to our climate, not suited to the times of year when we have our intense heat and the times of year when we have basically two springs, one in fall and one in spring.
Right.
And I was just a lot of education and a lot of realization that if we were doing the mindful thing about how we plan cities and suburbs, we would make sure that plants have a more generous space intermingled with all the other stuff that we're planning. We would allow very thoughtfully spaces for plants to help make oxygen, cool our buildings off, and cool our parking lots off, and um, clean out pollution, both from the soil and from the air. We need these things. They're just really
So,
important.
you know what always surprised me is that I want to xeriscape my lawn because I live in Idaho and the lower part are the kind of the western, kind of down a little bit low in
Mm-hmm.
Boise. And we live in the desert. We have a river run through it, but we're in the desert,
Mm-hmm. As far as rainfall. Yeah.
right? And summer we may get no rainfall at all. I
Yeah.
mean, just it happens. And so my feeling is, why am I planting grass and why am I trying to water this stuff?
Yeah.
Why? Because that's not what the landscape is
Mm-mm.
here. Now I have trees. I love trees. I have apple trees, some cherry trees that have taken over because they just keep planting themselves, and
Yeah.
I love them, so I let them go. And I have maple trees and stuff like that. So I have
Those are
different
worth
things
the
to plant.
water. Those are worth the
Uh,
water. But yeah, grass, you got to ask yourself, what is it for? What's it doing for me? I don't know.
yeah, I'm just wondering because I live in the desert, so it
Mm-hmm.
should be the desert.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's what I think anyway. And so, but I don't think my neighbors agree. Am I haphazard trying to get grass to grow? So, if you could have any kind of yard with anything in it you'd want, what would you put in your yard?
All edible stuff, because I think that after all the different things that I have ticked through in the landscape world, it would be those native plants that are really highly valued by wildlife. Birds and stuff really enjoy them either for like berries or as shelter. And then it would be tough herbs. A lot of them are from Mediterranean regions, don't require much water, and they thrive on poor soil, and they provide something that we can harvest, a little bit here and there. We don't have to come in like cropper and like harvest the entire plant. We can just pick at it, a renewal sort of a
Right.
way over time. Um, and I would do some perennial vegetables like onions. They have really cool flowers. And I would do a lot of berries and shrubs. I love elderberries, and I would do, a
Oh, I love
raspberry patch,
elderberry jelly.
some dwarf fruit trees. Everything would be either edible for us as people or really important for wildlife support.
So I watch this channel, Food Forest Permaculture,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
he
I
goes in his,
love permaculture.
yeah, he goes in his backyard, and
Mhm.
he's just picking. Oh, this is my lemon. This is this. He's on Vancouver Island. He goes,
Mhm.
oh look, let me move this, and I'm eating this and that. And he's just eating as he's walking around his yard.
Yeah,
And
pineapple.
okay, Manamana, and I just think to myself, I like that. I don't know how to do that without having a big weed festival.
Well, it takes a
I
lot of
don't know how
mulch.
he does it, but
Yeah,
wow.
what you got to do, I think, is first you plant some really fast growing suckery shrubs that make a lot of little shoots. And then you end up with a lot of leaves off of those and chopped up twigs and stuff that you start a big compost pile, and you make composted yard trimmings compost. And you start using that as your mulch and your top dressing for every square inch of your yard. Honestly, and a lot of times with lawn conversion, you can take a shovel, you can go down a few inches and then take out sections almost like it's turf and flip them over so that all of the grass material decomposes over the course of a summer or a winter. And then you can, kind of cut into it, and it has enriched the soil and added aeration and texture and organic material to the soil. So then you can plant your shrubby stuff, and you can constantly just be composting your yard trimmings. And the composted yard trimmings act as a mulch to suppress weeds.
Wow. So I think we're going to have to talk
Yeah.
because I am okay. Can you still do this if you have two dogs that use your backyard as their own playground?
Well, there might be a necessity to shelter some of your stuff as it gets started. But
Yeah,
most of the stuff that I would recommend is very sturdy plant material that once it gets going, your dogs can dig around a little bit at the base or chew on it or run into it, and they're not going to knock it out. So, you might need a little bit of a chicken fence around it, so to speak, for the first year or two.
to start. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe 3
Because
to get started.
I would love to have a yard like Howie does in his food forest permaculture. I
Yeah.
would love to have that. But Idaho, of course, when lemons and growing some of that stuff just doesn't work here.
Yeah, you're going to have a different plant palette for sure. And it's
Right.
what I'm facing too. I'm leaving Sonoma County, which gives me the glorious ability to plant almost anything because we have so little frost. There's like 3 nights of frost maybe in a winter. Um, and yet we have enough cold that a lot of things will do okay in the winter. Like in some climates further south, like you can't overwinter bulbs and things like that because it just doesn't get cold enough. So we're
Right.
in Graceland. I can grow everything here. Um, Everything from artichokes to apples to,
Uh,
you know, I can grow goji berries, and I can grow ginger, and I can grow, it's just, but I'm going to North Carolina and I'm sure it's different. I know we can't grow lemons there.
it is
Really,
different.
really gonna miss homegrown lemons.
Oranges, lemons.
Mhm.
If you throw avocado in, that's not going to be happening.
Yeah,
Um, North Carolina is a little bit different because, of course, as you get further down south, then it gets a little bit more doable. But
but then you're in humidity and
oh,
all
let me
kinds
just say, humidity, even up as high as Maryland, and as you go further up, it is horrendous.
of.
I went back to see my sister. I always go see my sister almost every year. And I was just drenched in sweat, like right away. And I was like, this does not, I mean, we have dry weather in Idaho. It's dry.
Yeah,
So there is no melting of the body.
yeah,
But I felt like I was melting continually when I was out east. So I don't know how they do it. Certainly never going to wear makeup out there.
yeah. Self
So
moisturizer, just all the sweat, just be glowing all the time.
right, right. Just start moving that around.
Mhm.
So do you know what area you're moving to in North
We
Carolina?
are we are settled on the Chapel Hill area. because
Okay.
we've checked into the community there. There's the Research Triangle kind of tech zone where it seems like jobs are reasonably available. How the housing costs are way lower than here, although
Yeah,
they're high, I guess, compared to the rest of the South. It's all relative, right? For us, this will be a
it
tremendous
is.
relief, but I guess in the other parts of North Carolina, they're like, that's where it's really expensive. So um, I don't know. They have a little town called Carborough, and they have a Weaver Street Market with is like a grocery co-op, and it sounds like there's a nice culture there. There's the University of Chapel Hill, of course, which I have vague hopes maybe someday I'll actually attend. That would be an
Wouldn't
accomplishment.
that be nice?
Mhm.
I think that that'd be really cool. I'm looking it up really quick to kind of get an idea of where it's located.
It's kind of right in the middle. It's not too close to the coast. It's not too far south. It's about 2.5 hours to get to the coast, or it's about 3 hours to get to Asheville in the
Okay,
Appalachians.
because I am. So you're not so close that you're going to be, sorry guys, I'm looking that up, hurricane stuff.
Oh,
You're not inland, you're by Raleigh. That's a good
yeah,
area.
yeah.
Okay.
So it's close enough to a city that we can go get some culture on. It's a small enough
Mhm.
town that we're not going to feel lost. The
Yes,
schools are really good. So my son, who's going to be going into junior high, high school, the schools, as best I can tell from a distance, are good. I'm going to go visit them on spring break.
they are. The schools, because I took my daughter clear across country to
Mm-hmm.
go look at all the schools across country, down through the South, and then back out.
Mm-hmm.
She ended up going here to school to my alma mater. But I was like, are you kidding me? But we saw some of the schools in South Carolina or
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina, and they were nice. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to remember if we went to Chapel Hill. We went to one that was near Wilmington,
Mm-hmm.
and I liked Wilmington and the Cape Fear area.
Yeah.
It was really nice. But
Yeah. I think we're going to have some good choices when it comes to both his education and mine. So it's always good to have
yes.
options. And then that's where we're going to go.
Hey, UK Momo. He's asking, oh, Kim has the snow. They have lots of snow.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
you really won't get
pretty
much
cool.
snow in North Carolina, will you?
No, I hear it averages somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 8 inches each winter. Sometimes none at all. Sometimes a whole bunch with one or two big storms. And we'll just have to gauge that once we experience it. But I used to live outside Chicago, so I,
Oh,
uh, average of 4 to 8 inches in the winter sounds pretty mild to me as compared to
yeah,
that.
that would be mild. That would be mild.
Yeah.
Here, in the mountains, we have the ski resort right up the mountain, but down here, we have not really had snow sticking to the ground
Hmm.
all year, and we're coming out the other side of February. This has been the weirdest winter I think we've had in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting for things to happen, but I'm
Uh,
not really seeing them.
yeah.
So
There's
this,
places I was watching some news program on a place up in, I don't know, I think it was, I want to say Toronto or something, where that's not right, but someplace, and they were dependent on the snow industry, dog sledding specifically, to get them through economically for the whole year. This little town up there in the snow area, and they weren't getting enough snow to have a long enough season to support the entire town. Like people were just up and
uh,
leaving because there was nothing to support themselves on. Eh.
wow, wow, that'd be that. I got to tell you, that would not be, very good. I know with our ski resort and we depend on snow for that, and they have a lot of jobs up there. Doesn't
Mm,
snow, it's not going to happen. So this year, I think it's been okay. We have rain. We've had a
mm.
lot of rain down here,
I
mostly
mean,
snow
snow
up
up
there,
there. Yeah.
which has
Yeah.
been a lot better. But again, it changes. We're changing and we're moving into a different area. And I think we're going back to being a little more desert, and which we are. So
Mhm.
it's going to be a little bit, I think, harder around here to keep everything going as this happens.
Yeah, we're gonna have to adapt a lot of agricultural practices, and I don't know if you've ever heard of earth ships. but they are these houses kind of designed to meet their own needs. They catch rainwater on the roof and they treat the rainwater and use it in different systems of the house in a way that, you know, it's purported to be safe. They treat it with plants to be able to reuse that water after they've used it once. They can then use it to flush toilets, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Plus the houses have solar systems and they have battery banks and that kind of thing. So that the theory is that they can supply all their own needs. And they're very interesting if you ever want to look them up online. But one of the things that makes them fascinating is they have like a solarium on the front of the house, so that the side of the house that faces south, it gathers a lot of sun energy, and it's separated from the rest of the house, and people grow plants in there. So you can kind of open and close the windows and vents between the house and that solarium area, that sunroom slash greenhouse.
Wow.
So you can moderate the temperature inside the house using that. The house is very well insulated. There's all these different tricks so that it
Wow.
doesn't need to be heated and cooled except using that solarium. And people grow food in there. They grow bananas in there, and theoretically you could grow, you know,
Oh,
avocado.
wow.
Yeah, so I think that might be something that brings those type of houses into more prominence as we face all these different climate changes, is people saying to themselves, well, if I build this house, I won't have any heating and cooling bills, and I'll be able to grow some of those foods I won't otherwise be able to get, you know.
And so I wonder if they will find a way to make money off that that
Oh,
we
for
have to
sure.
keep paying.
For sure. The guy, the guy who developed the concept, his name is Michael Reynolds, and he charges people thousands of dollars to come out to his Taos, New Mexico earthship, you know, plantation and work
Yeah.
on his projects for him. So he gets paid to have people work for him. So
Oh,
that
wow.
racket.
See,
And
I would like a house that took care of itself
I would
in
like
that
that too.
way.
I love the concept. I love the concept,
I
and I
love
want
the
to.
concept, but
Yeah.
we have one of our friends, Nomad Unbroken. He lives in a van. He got some solar panels or something. And
Mhm.
because it's so cloudy in Ohio, he doesn't have power half the time or not enough to do some of the things he wants. So with solar power, you do have to have batteries. You do have to have backups. You
You
do
have
have to
tech.
have
Yeah.
other things. It can't all just be solar. And I
Nope.
think that's where people get a little bit of a disconnect.
Mhm.
It's not just one thing, it is a few different things to make sure that you have your power needs, but also our power needs aren't usually as much as we think we need, if that makes sense. Are you frozen again? Uh-oh. Okay, guys, so this has been freezing just a little bit. Oops, some delay. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Let me go ahead and I'm going to refresh my page because last time it seemed to help you. Not that I know if it will or not, but I'll go ahead and do that again and go to top live chat. So guys, we've been talking with Paprika Clark on just different things that have been, oh, there we go, that
Yeah.
have been working for her in her world and doing looking out at food sustainability, really,
Mhm.
really, and what she's done to make that happen. And then working on small homes, which she lives in a tiny home, which they'll be selling soon. And it is one of the ones on wheels. And she'll be moving into a normal house. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Would that be accurate?
Yeah.
And so what is that going to be like for you?
Well, it's going to be interesting. You know, we basically have been using a tiny house as our own bedroom and office, and it's pulled up next to a manufactured home. And it manufactured homes on a quarter-acre property, and it has its own little attached unit built onto it by the previous owner. That was a garage and a little like studio apartment, and that was sort of a caregiver unit apartment
Right,
because
right.
there was an older woman who lived in the house, and she passed away. We bought the property, and my dad bought the property. My dad and my mom bought the property. They adopted me. They're the best people in the whole wide world, and my mom essentially chose to make certain cosmetic changes to the house and did not choose to do certain maintenance type things that needed to be done when she moved in. And because the money they were working with was her inheritance, my dad just kind of stood back and said, okay, we'll do what you want, honey. So we're living with those decisions now. The house is from 1985 and it's reached the end of its tether. So
Yes.
we were facing some very hard decisions about the fact that we just don't have the capital to dispose of it and put a new manufactured house on this lot. We didn't have the capital to build a stick-built house. And for, we were starting to run out of options. The house, the roof was leaking.
Right.
And then for the third year in a row, fires threatened close enough that we had to evacuate. And that was kind of the breaking point. That was when we all sort of looked at each other and went, is this worth it anymore? No, I don't think it's worth it anymore. So
right.
we just started evaluating places all over the country. And I've been around the country teaching in a lot of different places. So more so than some folks, I at least have a passing acquaintance with many different forms of American culture and towns
Right.
and cities. And North Carolina was one of those places on my short list that I thought, wow, this place really speaks to my heart in certain ways. It's beauty, it's people, and yet it's way cheaper than California. So I had put a pin in it. And when we started evaluating places, it came up for me and for my dad's girlfriend. So we said, hey, yes, let's do it. And that's how we ended up with Chapel Hill. In a normal house. I want to live. My son is 12 years old, and we have been, I think, a good practitioner as a family of a sort of benign neglect that is rarely allowed these days. We've let him run around like a little wild heathen and get his feet dirty and have fun and be rough. And now it's time to start civilizing him. And I want to, I want to put him under the same roof with us so we can follow up on every little moment of, of ill grace and say, hey, excuse me, behave yourself, and,
Yes.
and cultivate and practice these skills that you're going to need to be successful in life, interpersonal skills and otherwise.
But what a great childhood to be free and to be able to just get your feet dirty, play in the mud. I mean, just what a great childhood to
I think
have.
it's necessary. We used to live on acreage, he played in the pond. And I think that part of my upbringing was really a big part of what helped me grow up sane, despite a lot of craziness that I encountered. So, yeah.
Right, right. What a fun thing. So I had promised myself that Mondays were going to be hour long, and we already went over that, guys. I'm sorry. But Paprika, I'm going to probably just ask you to come back at some point so we can talk.
I would love it. I would love it.
Talk more garden, talk about how to make a sustainable garden area that doesn't have to be pristine and perfect, but just can produce and make sense. And I
Yeah.
would love to talk to you more about that. Guys, I just want to let you know Paprika Clark is with Dylan Pankow, so that we've had on. She is, are you married?
We are
Paprika?
not officially married. We're committed. We're technically engaged.
Okay.
Yeah, we're solid.
Yeah.
We've
They're
been together for
together.
18 years.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So this is, guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I know I have, because I love this type of thing. I've had so much fun. Thank you so much.
It's been a ball, and I really enjoyed meeting you and getting to know you better, Val. Thank you for inviting me. I so appreciate being here with you.
We're going to be talking. We're going to be talking, because I need to know stuff.
We should do that. It'll be fun. I like it.
So guys, don't forget to leave a like, visit Paprika Clark on her channel and where she's at. I think you're going to love it. And we will see you tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Val's Life. We'll find something to talk about. You'll have fun. So hopefully I'll see you then. Okay, bye everyone.